We will start in exactly 2 minutes from now. Once again, good morning everyone, and let's begin our webinar on ROI from Google AdWords and how it can help you increase sales. First off, if you are attending this webinar and you'd like to tell your colleagues or friends that you're doing this, and maybe if you'd like some of them to join as well, just tweet about it using a handle Zoho. And here's a brief overview of what we'll be covering today. First, I'll give you an overview of the state of advertising today and how the industry is headed. Then we go to the sales versus marketing rift, and where there's an information loss or disconnect between both these teams and how we need to fix it. Then comes how to configure AdWords within Zoho CRM, and we will then cover how you can push data back to Google AdWords, and then we'll go in for some FAQs and a Q&A round. First off, I think all of you can hear me. Just give me a moment. Let me just check my mic again.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
If you are able to hear me now, could you ping us in chat? All right, well, let me continue it. So yes, now let's resume after that brief glitch. So I was talking about advertising today. Now, as you all know, the internet revolution has brought about a huge disruption in the world of advertising, more so than many other places, and it has completely changed the way we look at this industry. Maybe many years back, when I say advertising, most companies would have a larger portion of their ad budgets allocated to digital advertising compared to your traditional methods, right? Which is what is happening now. But then if you just rewind the clock a little back, then a large portion of it would be billboard ads, print ads, and a lot more of your ambient media and the old school media. And when I talk about digital advertising, the first thing that comes to your mind is paid search. Now, this means that Google AdWords is more important now than ever if you have to generate quality leads and spearhead your growth. Now, it is essential that you absolutely know everything about the leads you're generating through Google AdWords. That's because you pay a certain amount of money for each and every click that happens. Unless that click translates into new business for you, whatever dollars you're spending are pretty much wasted. Let's look at sales and marketing, right? Many of you who have different teams, different sales and marketing teams in your companies, this word wouldn't be a very alien term to you. There's a lot of rub off going on between sales and marketing. But come to think of it, they're actually like two different people taking two different paths, but ultimately aiming to reach the same destination. I mean, the routes they take might be different, the work they might do might be different, but they're all working to get you new business, aren't they? But they do have a choice. Salespeople and marketers can either have a very smooth exchange of information and build on each other's insights, or they can blame each other for things that have gone wrong and eventually hamper the entire company's performance. Now, sales can complain that marketing is not generating leads that are not potent enough, while your marketing team may feel sales is not doing justice to whatever leads they're generating. So, where exactly does the problem lie? Does it lie with the marketing budget, marketing strategy, marketers, sales budget, sales process? I mean, where is the problem? Which is when I will talk about where exactly there is an information loss, which is creating this rift and how we can fix it. First off, let's analyze a typical lead gen process that happens using Google AdWords. Now, let's assume you are an interior design company and you identify a set of keywords that your product or service is closest to. You bid to show your ad against those search terms. You win the bid, and a specific cost per click is decided upon. And Google starts to display your ads, and every click now begins to cost you money. So you see that first ad that comes out there is your ad, it's Zillam Interiors, right? And every click on that will obviously cost you money. Let's say that you have a prospect that searched this search term, they've landed, they've seen your ad, and now they're sort of interested, so they click on that. So what happens next? They move to your landing page. This is a landing page that you've created. That's a web form that you used Zoho CRM to create. And assume someone's reasonably convinced after they've seen your highlights and they want to give you a try. They sign up using this web form. So they've filled in their name, their email, phone number, company name, and maybe a brief description of what they're looking at. This information comes into your CRM and the sales rep begins to follow up. That's a good thing. You might ask, whatever is wrong with this? Nothing. But is that information enough? Don't you need more? Like, let's take campaign information for example. Does your sales rep know which ad your lead has come from? They don't. When a visitor fills out this form, a lead is captured in CRM, but the campaign information doesn't come in. Now, some of you might actually use marketing automation tools. I mean, for the marketing teams that are there, and they are not in sync with your CRM, which means information doesn't flow there. So you have a mismatch. And many of you might also outsource marketing activities to third party agencies, digital advertising agencies. And I don't think they're in sync with your CRM. But what happens when these two teams are out of sync with each other? They do not know what is happening on the other side. And as I said, when you use a marketing automation tool, the trouble gets even worse. And this is where exactly the problem happens. Marketers cannot attribute the right campaign source while passing these leads, while salespeople cannot pay attention to the leads that are generated through these campaigns because they're ultimately paid campaigns and they do not know where they are coming from. So, how would they do it? And what eventually happens is that they treat all the leads alike. Now, this AdWords lead would be treated in a similar way as maybe how they've received a lead through a newspaper ad or maybe even an inbound phone call, and they end up following the same elevator pitch. Ultimately, your management cannot connect the dots between marketing and sales. And worst case, when that happens, you cannot identify new marketing avenues, ultimately growth begins to stagnate. Consider this resemblance. It's more like a relay race where marketing carries the baton for quite some time. And when I say the baton, that I refer to the lead. And then they have to pass it on to sales, and sales has to carry on with it and successfully complete the race. Now, in this process of transferring the baton, if it's dropped, then the race is lost. And a similar thing happens when a lead is transferred from marketing to sales. You need to complete the information relay. And if you see the relay here, the information relay, it flows from Google AdWords to the landing page, the website that I've showed you a couple of while ago, and then in which they fill the information in your form, and that info comes into CRM. Like now you have the leads in Zoho CRM. If you can classify by the lead source gets marked as Google AdWords. Now you can either use advanced filters or create a custom view to regularly capture all these leads and create a report to look at it. Now this information then continues through different stages of your sales pipeline. I mean, leads over to contacts, then to accounts and to deals. And detailed information like campaign name, date of click, ad group, keyword. If you notice here, now this lead that you've received has come from the ad that's titled Contemporary Interiors, that was on the 10th of January, through the keyword of Contemporary Interiors, and the ad group name was Interior Design. So when you have this information, it becomes really easy to create your pitch. Now, I will come to the benefits slightly later on in this presentation. Let's first have a look at how you can integrate Google AdWords to your CRM account. First, you have to go to the setup section, and under extensions and APIs, if you can see in the second row, there's the option of Google just after Zoho. So you have to click that and you'll be taken to this screen. Three tabs there: Google Contacts, Calendar, and AdWords Sync. Select the AdWords Sync, and now you'll be taken to a screen where you have the AdWords information. Authenticate your Google AdWords account using the Google AdWords credentials that you're holding, and after which you have to enable auto tagging. This portion also I will cover in a little while on why you have to auto tag here. Now you create a web form using the usual web form creation procedure in CRM, and you have to append the Google AdWords transcript so that information gets passed on in a seamless manner. Deploy this landing page and deploy the web form on your landing page and just get started. It's as simple as that. Now that you've configured the AdWords account and you've published the landing page, so what about pushing this data back into AdWords? So how would you know if that ad has translated into revenue? So this is where the relay completes. So the information comes from your AdWords eventually into CRM and then goes into deal. And you close the deal, you win a deal. What happens after that? Does AdWords know that a specific ad has resulted in a deal for you? Let's look at a brief example in Google's own words. Now, here they've taken the example of a piping company where there's industrial piping and the ad says Pipes Incorporation, and there is a certain click ID, the GCL ID that I highlighted earlier. What happens when a prospect comes to this ad and clicks it is that this information gets passed on to the CRM. The ID gets stored in your CRM, and once your sales team begins to follow up, you can enter data back into AdWords whether that was successful or not. So what eventually happens is you get a complete picture of how that ad has translated into revenue. So if you see here, it's a full cycle from the ad to information coming into CRM to your salesperson following up. That was step number 3. And number 4, information is uploaded back into AdWords. And 5, you have a full picture of what was your cost per conversion, essentially how much you've spent and how much you've got back. Now, the best part here with Zoho CRM is that steps number 4 and 5, which is uploading back that information into AdWords and syncing that into your AdWords investment and getting out a report, these steps are automated. So you don't have to take the pain of doing this manually. And in order to do this, when you are configuring AdWords, you have to enable the option called offline conversion tracking. Now, here you will see 3 of those options, like lead or contact is created, lead is qualified, and potential is won. These are essentially the events that you think mark a success. So whenever, let's say you assume that if a lead is qualified, you think the ad was successful or you think it's a reasonable success. So you select that checkbox. And the moment every lead is qualified, every lead that comes through the ad, this information is sent back into Google AdWords. So even if you're converting a deal offline, which has resulted through an online ad, this information still gets relayed back to AdWords. And when you go into your AdWords reports, you will see the conversions here. Now, if you see the last column that says Zoho CRM conversions, and you see that along with the net value that you've created using those ads. Now, a brief recap. We spoke about advertising. We spoke about how important digital advertising is. We spoke of sales versus marketing. Where's the rift? Where's the information falling apart and how you can fix it and how Zoho helps you fix it. And then the last section was how to push data back into Google AdWords. Let me take you through some quick benefits of integrating Google AdWords with Zoho CRM now. First, you get to focus on the right keywords. Now, Zoho CRM combines sales data with your AdWords expenditure. So you can figure out which keywords are bringing you the most qualified leads, while you can eliminate the keywords that are not bringing you good leads. So you can spend your advertising dollars judiciously and where they count most, and hence get a better return on your investment. Another point is that you get to really personalize your sales pitch, because when you know why a lead came to your website, you can persuade them with a better sales pitch. Normally, if you wouldn't know this, let me take this example. This was for an ad through a keyword that said wireless printers. If I assume you're an IT company who deals with printers and many other IT peripherals like monitors and other pieces of hardware, maybe your salesperson would go about explaining what you do and what all you have to offer. But when you have targeted information like this, when you know that they've searched for wireless printers, the pitch directly starts from printers. So, which means every pitch is relevant because you view the campaign data within your customer records. Another key benefit is that you get to bridge the gap between online conversions and offline sales. Now, this rarely happens. I mean, not always do you measure your advertising against a closed deal. I know purpose of advertising could be different. It's not always to close deals. Sometimes it is for brand building, but most of the times, ultimately, in the end, it has to generate revenue, right? It's a closed cycle, dollars spent versus dollars earned back again. And you can also have insights into all your campaign performance data. You can use detailed statistics to make sure you are investing in the best campaigns, the campaigns that are performing better. Now, when you combine AdWords analytics with CRM revenue, you get to find out which keywords are most cost effective. Let's go through some FAQs now. some questions that are usually asked in AdWords. Now, first of all, Google AdWords integration does not seem to be enabled for my account. Why? Some of you might see it, some of you might not. The reason is that this is available in the professional, enterprise, and CRM Plus editions. Now, if you are using a standard or free edition, you would need to upgrade and get started with this integration. Now, I spoke of auto tagging earlier. Now, you might ask what is auto tagging and why you should enable it. What happens with auto tagging is that when you auto tag the AdWords parameter, Google appends a click ID. So this click ID is transferred. That is your backend relay that keeps getting transferred from the ad to your CRM and eventually back to AdWords again. Now this ID is like a tail at the end of your destination URL. URL is nothing but the landing page. And when you do that, you will be able to track all this information inside your CRM. Now, does Zoho CRM support integrations with all kinds of Google AdWords accounts? They cannot do it with a multiple MCC account, but the integration is very much possible with an individual AdWords account and a single My Client Center account. And how long does it take for Google AdWords information under a lead or contact to get updated? This is one of the reasons why I could not show you a live demo today, because the information takes up to 24 hours to get relayed back into CRM. Now, so please don't be puzzled if the moment you click an ad and you see that the information has not come into CRM within an hour or so. It can take up to 24 hours. Now, I'm not able to authenticate my Google AdWords account during this integration. Why? First off, only AdWords accounts with administrative access levels can be integrated. Now, other accounts will not be authenticated. So, if you have other accounts like email only, read only, or standard, you might not be able to authenticate your AdWords account. You need to be an admin there. Now, you might use a third-party builder and not Zoho CRM to create web forms. How can you set it up in that case? Now, if you do not use Zoho CRM to set up a web form, you can add this field code in your web forms code, and we will send you this information. Again, please don't worry about copying this. I'll send you this information along with a recording of the webinar so that you will have it for your record. You can copy that, and you can also copy this tracking code in the web page. And when this happens, the Google Click ID, this GCLID data gets transferred into your CRM, and then it happens in a seamless manner. Another question which we usually keep seeing is that when are these offline conversions pushed into Google AdWords? Now, data for three components, that is CRM leads or contacts, qualification, and sales, they are pushed once every 24 hours. There's a certain time for that, but then the sync happens once in every 24 hours. But then the exact time when this happens is not standard. It's based on when exactly that integration was configured. So the exact time might differ for each user that you have. Now, if your offline conversions are not being pushed into Google AdWords, sometimes that can happen. One of the reasons for that is offline conversions will not be pushed if conversions do not happen within 90 days from the ad click. So within a time of 3 months, the conversion should happen, else this offline conversion will not be moved. And again, the name of that offline conversion should not be changed in this time duration. Now, if changed, they will not be pushed, because as you can see, there is a mismatch between the ID that was generated and the one that has come into CRM. So when that mismatch happens, it can't put it together. Now, what if the value of your potential changes after the info has been pushed into AdWords? Will it change there? Now, if this potential value is higher, the change is reflected. But then if the value gets lowered, the change is not reflected. So let's look at it as the best of the two, because the higher value is considered. Now, if you are not able to view the AdWords history for maybe a month, that is but natural, because Google AdWords history displays only 1 week's data. Data older than 1 week is removed. And now, what if you deactivate the AdWords integration? Will you lose all that related data? Now, when you disable, from that very moment, all tracking of AdWords under leads and contacts will be stopped. However, now details fetched before that will be retained. Immediately, your Google AdWords tab and the information will be removed. If you've created any reports or dashboards based on that information, they will be deleted. Spending and ROI will not be accessible, but details of campaigns created before deactivation are retained. Now, you can tweet about what you felt about this webinar. If you felt this added some value and you learned something out of it, please do that and give us your honest feedback on how I presented this webinar. And now I will be open to your questions. Please feel free to type in the chat box. One of you has asked how, one moment. One of you has asked if you need to test this feature when you're using the standard edition. Well, you can just get in touch with our sales team and they would enable a professional trial for you. That shouldn't be a problem, and you can directly test out this feature that way. Uh, I think I went a little fast during the integration part. One of our attendees has commented on that. Uh, we will email you this recording so that you will have it for future reference. But just to go back again, you have to go into setup and you have to click on the Google option there under APIs and extensions, and then configure the third tab, that is Google AdWords, and then you have to append the auto tagging and then go ahead. We will send you a copy of this presentation along with the slides. Many of you have been asking for that. We will do that so that you can have it for future reference along with the FAQs, so that when other users in your company have any doubts, they can refer to that. One of our attendees has reached out to us saying they have the integration set up, but they do not see the leads coming in. Now, can you you can classify the lead source as Google AdWords using advanced filters, or create a custom view and try that. Even then, if it's not working, then I think there is some problem with the Google Click ID. Maybe you can uninstall the AdWords extension and then try reconfiguring it if there was any trouble with the auto tagging. uh, I have another question that says, can you track ads as well as keywords? Yes, You can, because essentially the keyword was what was searched in the search bar. You can track that, as well as the ad that showed up against it, using which you configured. All right, let me go ahead. Let me go back to those 5 steps of configuring. I think that was slightly fast. Give me a moment there. I'll First off, you have to go to the setup screen, go to extensions and APIs under setup, and then select the option that says Google here, the second option under extensions and APIs. And next, you will see this screen popping up that says Zoho CRM for Google. You see 3 tabs. Select the third tab that says Google AdWords, and then you get started here. What happens here is now you have to authenticate your Google AdWords account. Now, once you click that, you will be sent to authenticate the account. Now, you have to have an administrator level access in your Google AdWords account if you have to configure this. Once the authentication is done, you will need to enable auto tagging. Now, you have to agree to this and select the checkbox, and you have to auto tag. Post this, you can create a web form and fill in all the information into that web form. Like, you have to append the Google AdWords script here, because what happens when you don't do this is that the information does not flow into this web form from your AdWords. So first step was one of the important ones was to enable auto tagging, which was this option here. The very moment you finish your authentication, and then you have to append the AdWords script, mark it as yes, and then you embed it into the landing page. I think that clarified on the 5 steps of set how to set the AdWords thing. I have another question that says, can I set up the AdWords account if I'm not the administrator? Well, that cannot happen. You will need to have admin access for Google AdWords account. I have another question that says, can we append AdWords script to web forms that I already have created in Zoho? You can edit that, or you can actually change it again. Uh, One of you has mentioned that, is it easy to integrate with JotForm forms? Now, I have not personally tried out JotForm, but then you can do this using any third party web form using the method that I have mentioned there. You have to copy that code. Now, we will send this in the email, so you can copy the code and embed it into this third party web form. So that would be relatively easy. Now, well, one of you has asked if there's an easy way to create a nice looking landing page. Well, thank you for calling that nice. Now, yes, definitely possible. And if you can create way nicer landing pages, you can just have a look at Zoho Sites. That is a site builder. You can get a free account to begin with and start building your sites, and also embed a web form in that. Well, thank you everyone. I think we are running out of time right now, but whatever questions we have remaining, we will definitely answer that by email. Once again, thanks for joining us today, and please tweet about it. What did you feel about it? Did you like it? Has it added value? And maybe what you would like to see the next time around with Google AdWords. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.